This session, we're going for the big one. We're creating your brand new healthy sleep schedule. I have to warn you that this is the toughest part of the Sleepio course, but it's also the most powerful, the peak of the mountain, as it were. By the end of this session, you'll be doing everything you can from the moment you wake up until your head hits the pillow at night to maximize your sleep efficiency. We'll look at the principles of a pro sleep schedule, your routine before you get into bed, and the importance of improving your bed-sleep connection when you're in bed. Then we'll look at the single most effective element of the whole course, sleep restriction, before putting it all together into your brand new sleep schedule. As usual, we'll end on our weekly quiz to check that you've taken everything in. Let's get cracking. Now, remember we spoke about energy levels last session? I explained that things that boost your energy levels, like caffeine and exercise, should be restricted to the daytime. Then, when the evening comes, your energy levels will be low and your body will be ready for sleep. Now, let me expand on that point. Our bodies have a natural system called homeostasis that keeps everything balanced. It makes sure that we get the right amount of everything that we need. So, for example, if your body needs water, you become thirsty and you're driven to find something to drink. Well, it works the same way with sleep. If you don't get enough, then your body's homeostat will naturally kick in and increase your sleep drive. This force builds, making you sleepier and sleepier until you just can't stay awake any longer. Then, with every hour that you're asleep through the night, your wake drive builds, so that by morning you wake up naturally, feeling refreshed, having satisfied your sleep drive. Through the day, aided by the natural trigger of daylight, you stay awake, building your sleep drive again, and the cycle continues. The technical term for this is the circadian system. You may know it better as the body clock. Lovely in theory, eh? You may not be experiencing this stable pattern right now, but we can harness the natural force of your sleep drive to get you closer to this ideal. The principle is simple. If you keep your energy levels high during the day, your sleep drive will build up, only to be satisfied at night in your bed. So the general rule of a pro-sleep schedule is simply to stay awake and energized during the day and relaxed and asleep at night. Sounds obvious, but let's think what it means in practice. First of all, it means you should avoid napping during the day. Napping uses up your sleep drive at the wrong time, reducing the natural pressure to sleep later at night. So when you get to the evening, you feel more awake, not what we want at all. If you're in the habit of an afternoon snooze, this may be hard at first, but this is where you can use some of those energy boosters to your advantage. When you feel sleepy, drink a tea or coffee, stretch and exercise a little to perk you up, or just get some sunshine. All of these things will boost your energy. As a last resort, if you absolutely have to take a nap, I'd say 10 to 15 minutes is the optimum length. Enough to refresh you, but without removing too much precious sleep drive. As a general rule, though, do everything you can to stay awake during the day. One important final word, though. If you ever feel dangerously sleepy, as if, for example, you might drop off behind the wheel of your car, then having a nap is absolutely the right thing to do. And if you're at all worried about feeling sleepy during the day, then you should consult your doctor as soon as possible. How about we get this first principle into your schedule now? Does all that make sense? As evening approaches, your energy should begin to decline and your sleep drive should be building. But although it's bedtime, it's ridiculous to expect yourself to just collapse into bed and fall asleep instantly. especially if you have a disrupted sleep pattern. So, to help you transition into a nice, relaxed state ready for sleep, I suggest we develop a wind-down routine for you to follow every night. Starting about an hour and a half before bed, your routine should focus on finishing off your work for the day and then dedicating some time to doing something relaxing, something for you. For many people, this is the only me time they get each day, so it's a chance to make it extra special. A wonderful idea in principle, but in practice, many people who suffer from poor sleep find it hard to relax. Fortunately, relaxing is a general skill that can be learnt, and one that can help you not just with your sleep, but give you a calmer approach to life in general. So let's figure out how you could relax. There are really two types of relaxation. Active relaxation involves high-energy activities that burn up stress, either physically, like playing a sport, or mentally, like doing a crossword. Then there is passive relaxation, which is more like letting go, going for a gentle stroll or listening to music. This type of relaxing is what tends to be most difficult for poor sleepers, and what we'll be focusing on for your wind-down routine. To give us some possibilities, I want you to classify some relaxation activities as either active or passive, and mental or physical. Let's see how you get on. Almost. Yes, quite right. Well done. Almost. All correct. Absolutely. Now, which passive relaxation activities are you going to try as part of your wind down each evening? Perfect. Give them a go and see how they work for you. You can change them at any time. It doesn't matter what you do, so long as you dedicate time each night to relaxing and reducing your energy levels. Now we've got your me time sorted, let's add in the more practical nightly tasks. Which of these do you have to do each night before you go to bed? Excellent. We've got everything we need to create your wind-down routine. We'll adjust the timings to suit you later in the session, but for now, I've put in an hour to get all of your loose ends tied off for the day. The ideal 90 minutes for lovely relaxation, and half an hour to get those practical pre-bed jobs done. It's starting to shape up. Do you want me to go over that again? Once you've finished your wind-down routine, you should be nice and relaxed and ready for sleep. But as soon as you step into your bedroom, there's every chance that sleeping is the last thing you're able to do. Back in session 1, I explained how people with poor sleep get so used to being awake and frustrated in their bedroom that simply being in there triggers those stressed emotions. This stress then keeps them awake, driving that awful vicious cycle of sleeplessness. So what we need to do is rebuild the connection between your bed and sleep. What do I mean by that? Well, think about the relationship that good sleepers have with their beds. They think bed and automatically think, sleep. It's a place of relaxation, of rest. You go to bed, you fall asleep. They have a strong bed-sleep connection, and as a result, they are much more likely to have a nice high sleep efficiency. Now back to you. I expect the connection between bed and sleep in your experience is a little less rosy. Perhaps bed means a long shift till morning comes, a place of stress and frustration. Not, I imagine, a place you associate with relaxing, restful sleep. My point is this. Good sleep will be easier for you if your mind and your body are triggered by your bed to make an automatic sleep response. Cue bed, cue sleep. That's how it is for the good sleeper, and you too can develop a strong bed-sleep connection. Would you like to hear that again before we move on? So how do we go about reconnecting your bed with sleep? By following a simple but challenging rule. You should do nothing but sleep in your bedroom. In practice, this means 3 things. First, you need to stop all other non-sleep activities that you might do in bed. Watching TV, reading, eating, and talking on the phone in bed are out. You can do these things elsewhere in the house, but when you go to bed, put the light out and get your head down straight away. There is only one exception to this rule: sexual activity. It usually helps us sleep afterwards. Now, you may be thinking, but lots of people read in bed. I know they do, but lots of people also don't have sleep problems. To rebuild your sleep pattern, we need to get you into the habit of falling asleep very soon after you get into bed. A quick bed-sleep response, if you like. So from now on, sleep and only sleep in your bedroom. Cue bed, cue sleep. Does all that make sense? Now, there will be nights when you put your head down in bed and sleep will not come quickly. I don't want you lying there awake trying to sleep. It's an automatic sleep response we're building here. So, if sleep does not come within quarter of an hour, I want you to get out of bed and go into another room. And not just at the start of the night. If at any point during the night you wake up and do not fall asleep again within about quarter of an hour, you should get up and leave your bedroom. This is what I call the quarter of an hour rule. How does that sound? Difficult? Crazy even? Well, I know that getting out of a nice cozy bed when you want to sleep is going to be hard. At first, you will probably be up and down quite a few times, but it's in a good cause. By getting up and away from your bed, you keep wakeful time associated with a wakeful environment. And by getting out of that habit of lying in bed and getting frustrated, you start to reassociate your bed with sleep. If you're not sleeping, you're not sleeping. It's as simple as that. Get up and stop trying. Sleep will come when it's ready. Would you like to hear that one more time? So let's say you wake up in the night and head out of your bedroom to relax. When should you return to bed? Well, it's quite simple. Only go back to bed when you feel sleepy enough to get to sleep quickly. If you're lying awake in your bed, you're breaking down the connection between bed and sleep, and you're building up a lot of frustration. If you still cannot sleep when you go back to bed, you'll only need to get out of bed yet again. Therefore, it's important that you know the difference between tiredness and sleepiness. Physical tiredness does not mean that sleep is inevitable, whereas sleepiness is a signal from our bodies that it's time for our night's sleep. The usual signs of sleepiness are things like itchy eyes, yawning, lack of energy, aching muscles, and a tendency to nod off. Do you want me to go over that again? Now, this whole scheme probably sounds pretty intimidating, but there are things you can do to make getting out of bed easier. Simply setting the heating to a pleasant temperature or leaving a lamp switched on in the living room can make it more bearable. And by having a clear plan worked out ahead of time for what you'll do when you wake up, it makes it much easier to flip into autopilot. So what should you do if you wake up in the middle of the night? The idea is to get relaxed and ready for sleep, so perhaps one of these activities from your wind-down routine would work. Take your pick, or enter a new activity. Now, where in the house will you go to relax if you wake up? Great! Let's put your wake-up plan and the 3 nighttime rules into your schedule and to-do list. I'll also put in a reminder for you to prepare for your relaxation activities before you go to bed. Then, if you wake up, everything will be ready and waiting for you. Before we move on, I have 2 final things to say on this quarter-of-an-hour rule. First, you don't need to wait that long if you don't want to. If you don't feel sleepy, it's okay to get up sooner. Second, I don't want you to count down the clock. That is why I call this the quarter-of-an-hour rule, rather than the exactly 15 minutes rule. Just get up when you feel like you've been awake for roughly quarter of an hour. Quarter of an hour too long, if you ask me. Does all that make sense? So we're almost ready to complete your new schedule. But there is one final technique we need to talk about. In fact, this is the big one. We call it sleep restriction. We all know that bad sleep involves not getting as much sleep as you'd like. But on top of this, the sleep you do get is often broken up into bits through the night. You finally get to sleep, and then within an hour or so, you're awake again. And so it goes on through the night. So even if your total sleep time added up doesn't look so bad, this up and down all night can make you feel like you've hardly caught a wink. For you, I imagine your night all too often looks like this. More time awake during the night means a lower sleep efficiency, and this is what sleep restriction works to fix. But it also does something else. Another common problem with poor sleep is what we call night-to-night variability. Some nights you can't sleep a wink. Others you crash out and sleep through for 8 or 9 hours. When our sleep is unpredictable like this, we can feel pretty frustrated and out of control. Sleep restriction will make your sleep both continuous through the night and consistent across the whole week. How does it work such magic? Well, it involves creating a new restricted sleep window. The idea is we take all of the bits of sleep you have in a normal night and squeeze them together into one solid block, so that there are no frustrating gaps with you awake between them. This means that, although you might be in bed for less time than normal, the total amount of sleep you get will be the same. And since it isn't broken up, hopefully it will be more restful. To establish this new pattern, we need to put this new sleep window in place every single night, at the same time, and for the same length. Yes, even on weekends. That is the only way that we can build a new, healthy habit. Now, I have to tell you, most people find this part of the course the most challenging of all. What I should also tell you, though, is that all of the most senior sleep experts agree that this is the single most effective technique in overcoming poor sleep. So I want you to be particularly committed to getting sleep restriction to work. Does all that make sense? First, let's figure out the starting point for your new regular sleep schedule, your restricted sleep window. As you know, the amount of sleep we need differs from person to person, and the minimum amount you need is probably less than you ideally want. But to get you back on track, we must find this bare minimum starting point. To do this, we use the sleep diary data you've been collecting over the past weeks. We simply calculate your average nightly sleep. Here it is. This is the amount of continuous sleep each night that I suggest we should aim for you to achieve. Now, I bet that's less than the amount of sleep you're aiming for, but this is just your starting point. Our first priority is to get rid of your difficulties getting to sleep and staying asleep. After that, we will build up your total sleep time to the amount of sleep you want. And remember, no matter how little sleep you get, the goal is for it to be worthwhile sleep. The next step is to anchor your sleep on a fixed morning rising time. This is essential to stop your new reliable sleep pattern from drifting. But because the length of your new sleep window is fixed, this rising time affects when you can head to bed. The earlier your rising time, the earlier your bedtime, and vice versa. Setting your sleep window means balancing the two. It may involve getting up earlier than you're used to, or heading to bed later, or perhaps even both. This is because we're squeezing your sleep into a smaller space. On top of this, it's important to remember that the start of your new sleep window is not necessarily the time you should get into bed. As we discussed earlier, it is essential that you spend your time in bed sleeping, not lying awake. So the start of your sleep window is the earliest you can head to bed each night. But you should only go to bed when you feel sleepy enough to fall asleep quickly. Rather than bedtime, I call it threshold time, the earliest you can cross the threshold from waking to sleeping. If all this sounds intimidating, don't worry. Remember, this is just a starting point and the most effective part of the whole Sleepio course. So let's get your rising and threshold times set. Move your sleep window until you find the best balance between the two. I've made a guess based on your average rising time over the past few weeks, but feel free to change it. Now, with that in mind, let's look at how the rest of your schedule slots into place. Take a look at your wind-down routine and tweak the times until you're happy. When you're happy, just click Continue and we'll move on. Great. Now, there's a very good chance that you are now seriously worried. Here are some common concerns I hear.
That's ridiculously early to get up in the morning. And absurdly late to stay up until I go to bed.
It may seem like a strange and unappealing schedule, but it's important not to forget why we're doing this, to help you develop a consistent sleep pattern. Your new restricted sleep window will cram all of that sleep drive into a contained time period, so your sleep efficiency should steadily increase, and you should start sleeping right through the night until morning. It will be tough, but it's proven to work.
Surely I don't have to do this every night, including weekends.
I'm afraid so. You're facing quite a challenge to get your sleep pattern sorted out, and it is going to take a 7 nights a week effort to do it. Sleep restriction will work best if you stick to your threshold and rising times every day of the week. I accept that weekends will be hard for you, so use your alarm clock to make sure you get up at your rising time.
Am I going to get stuck with this short sleep window?
Thankfully not. The goal is to get you sleeping in a regular, reliable pattern. Once we've achieved that, you can begin to lengthen the amount of time you spend in bed. Let it grow a bit bigger, hopefully to the amount you would like. In practice, I want to help you increase your sleep efficiency to around 90%, an achievable goal. Once you reach this level for 1 full week, you can increase your time in bed by 15 minutes by either going to bed earlier or staying in bed later in the morning. We will then try that longer sleep window for the next week, and if you still make it to 90%, then we'll add another 15 minutes to your sleep window. Pretty soon, we will find the right amount of sleep for you, and hopefully you'll be left with a nice, regular, satisfying sleep pattern. But it's important that you're very strict and do not go above 15 minutes per week at any time. This will waste all of your hard work in building up your sleep efficiency.
But the whole thing sounds so tough.
I'm not going to pretend. I know that sleep restriction is going to be difficult for you. I sometimes call it the surgical option, because it's like cutting out an old and malfunctioning part and implanting a replacement. As with surgery, you need to go through some trauma in the short term in order to make yourself better in the long run. No pain, no gain. So try to think, this problem is hard to break, but I'm going to stick at it because it's been shown to be effective for people just like me. If my experience is anything to go by, your motivation will come and go. That's to be expected. Some nights you'll find it hard to follow the plan, but don't let setbacks discourage you. They are normal. The best thing to do is to get right back on course. I honestly think you may never have a better chance to sort out your sleep problems. Of course, if you have any concerns at any point about your sleep, especially if you're feeling sleepy during the day, you should consult your doctor immediately. Would you like to hear that again before we move on? Okay, so that's it for this session. Quite a lot to absorb. Let's see how much you've taken in with our weekly quiz. Here's the average score. Can you do any better? First question. Why is it important to have a strong bed-sleep connection? That's right. Instead of associating going to bed and being in bed with wakefulness, we want to get to the position where your mind and your body automatically respond to your bed with sleep. Think bed, think sleep. Next question. If we absolutely need to have a daytime nap, how long should it be? Correct. We should avoid napping unless we are dangerously sleepy. Your bed-sleep connection is strengthened by staying awake during the day. But if you do take a nap, 15 minutes is ideal to stave off sleepiness without affecting our night's sleep. And if you're worried about feeling sleepy during the day, make sure to consult your doctor immediately. Next question. How can you become better at relaxing? Quite right. Holidays are good for us, as is getting a bit more balance into our lives, but we become a more relaxed person by learning new, healthier habits and skills. We should all have both active and passive ways of letting go, and techniques such as progressive relaxation can help us eliminate tension and worry. Next question. Why is it important to get out of bed if you're awake for longer than about quarter of an hour? Bang on. If you lie in bed awake, you reinforce it as a place of stress and frustration. By getting out of bed and only returning when you feel sleepy, you help to rebuild the connection between your bed and sleep. Next question. How many nights a week should you stick to your new restricted sleep window? Absolutely. If we are to make a lasting difference to your sleep pattern, you need to stick to your new restricted sleep window 7 days a week. It won't be easy, but in every probability, it will give you a new, healthy sleep pattern. Well, that's the end of the quiz. Let's see how you did. A very respectable score. Well done. You've clearly been paying attention. Before you go, let's take a look at your to-do list for the coming week. It's starting to build up, but make sure you keep up the ones from previous sessions. All those changes to your bedroom and lifestyle will provide strong foundations for your new sleep schedule. And carry on filling in your sleep diary every day so we can track of how your new sleep schedule is working. Shall we meet at the same time next week?